Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Majlis program for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Mohamed Akber Hasham. Let us start today's program with Surah Yasin by Brother Mudassir Alu.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا آثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يرد الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون. بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعد من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا وعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناهم من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلق قال من يحيي العظام وهي الرميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر أخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله
We
أعوذ
shall now have Surah
بالله
Mulk by Brother Zamin Ali Tanji.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نظير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسروا قولهم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبض ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أم من يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله.
Ahsant. I will now ask Brother Ali Raza Banji to proceed with Masha.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. नाना के रोजे मेरा घर होता है वीरा, अब हाय मेरी आखिरी रुखसत का है सामा। कब्र हुसैन आज की शब है तेरा मेहमान, कल रूह मेरे नाना की होवेगी परेशान। कब्र मैं दुख पाऊंगा परदेश में जाकर, तू शक हो तो नाना से लिपट जाऊं मैं आकर। कब्र मैं कैसा तेरे साहिब का हूँ प्यारा, सिजदे में मुझे पुश्त से अपनी न उतारा। अब जानुए जल्लाद है और सीना हमारा, सुनियो के मुजाविर तेरा मारा गया प्यासा। तेरे ही मुलाकात की ये रात है बाकी, फिर गर्दनों खंजर की मुलाकात है बाकी। फिर हाथ उठा के सुए किबलाए सुनाया, इस कब्र के साहिब की कसम तुझको खुदाया। वो सब्र मुझे दे जो किसी ने न हो पाया, नाना कहे इसने मेरी उम्मत को बचाया। वो हिल्म अता कर तू हुसैन इब्ने अली को, सब मुझको सताए न सताऊं मैं किसी को। असगर को लिए रन से जो रोता हुआ आऊं, लेकिन तेरे दरबार में हंसता हुआ आऊं। उम्मत जो सताए मुझे मैं रंज न पाऊं, नफरी न करूं बद न कहूं लब न हिलाऊं। असगर को जो पानी न दे मैं कुछ न सजा दूं, अकबर को जो बिस्मिल करे मैं उसको दुआ दूं। शब्बीर ने सर शुक्र के सिजदे में झुकाया, और पहलुए मरकद में मुसल्ले को बिछाया। सोए जो इबादत में तो ना नजर आया, तनाफ उन्हें कब्र से निकला हुआ पाया। देखा तो गले मिलने के अरमान बड़े है, फैलाए हुए हाथ वो मरकद में खड़े है। शबीर ने सर नाना की छाती से लगाया, रोकर कहा जिस दिन से उठा आपका साया। नाना की कसम चैन कभी हमने न पाया, अब ले चलो साथ अपने के उम्मत ने सताया। जाने न दो सफर में मुझे, छोड़ो वतन में। हम तुम रहे एक कब्र में और एक कफन में। वो बोले कि क्या वादा वफा कर चुके शबीर, सर को मेरी उम्मत पे फिदा कर चुके शबीर। या लाशे अकबर पे बुका कर चुके शबीर, खंजर के तले शुक्र खुदा कर चुके शबीर। ऊंट से लाशे पे तेरी गिर चुकी ज़ैनब, यूं कूफे में सर खोले हुए फिर चुकी ज़ैनब। क्या हाथों में तेरे अली असगर गए मारे, क्या लुट गया घर और जले खैमे भी सारे। शब्बीर ये सब शर्त है आने में तुम्हारे, ये क्या कलमा गो मेरे तुमको नहीं प्यारे। गर हल्क को कटवा चुके हो आओ मेरी जान, उम्मत को जो बख्शवा चुके हो आओ मेरी जान। रहमल्लाह आदिल फातिहा अस्सलावात अल्लाह सल्ली अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद व अज्जिल फरज।
Jazakallah khair, Uncle Ali Raza. We will now have Majlis recited by Sheikh Shahnawaz.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Into the third majlis and the final majlis of my commitment for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Mohamed Hasham. And prior to the commencement of this final majlis on my part, may I request all of us to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the Marhum Mohamed and Kul Marhumin and Marhumat of all the all the spectators, all the audience, and tamam marhumin and marhamat. Bismillah. As I did mention that I was asked to recite 3 majlis, and today it's almost getting close to Maghrib, half an hour remaining, 40 minutes remaining. Night probably in Dar es Salaam is my last majlis for this commitment of mine. And as I'd mentioned in the second majlis, that the endeavor, once I had been asked to recite 3, the endeavor was to have a series of lectures linked to one another, so that taken collectively, these lectures, these majlises would serve to provide a good source of information, good source of the teachings of the Ahl al-Bayt with respect to whatever topic I had decided. And the topic that I had identified was a person's life in a very nutshell, in 3 half an hour slots of a person's life from the cradle when he's born till the time he dies. And while it is almost impossible to encapsulate all the teachings of the Ma'sumin for this entire period of a person's life in a short span of 3 lectures of half an hour each, the idea was to pick out certain very important phases in this entire journey, certain things which are very landmark phases in this journey, very critical, very pivotal, to highlight them out and to provide certain solutions for the problems that could be faced in those bottlenecks of this entire journey from the cradle to the grave. And just very quickly to link up to today's majlis, a very brief recap of the previous 2 lectures, previous 2 majlises, so that you and I would come to know exactly where this 3rd lecture stands in this entire series and the discussion that we're taking place. So in the first majlis, we spoke about how, after having come into this world, we have to endeavor to live a life. We have an option of living the life as life of hayat tayyiba or hayat khabitha. Hayat tayyiba is a goodly life. Hayat khabitha is an evil life. And in our endeavor to explain this hayat tayyiba, we talked about one particular individual, Allama Amini, as to how his life was so mutabarrik, so tayyib, that the result of that and the consequence of that life in this tayyib life in this world consequentially gave him that immense position in the Akhirat, close to the Ahl al-Bayt, that he was given the dignity and the honor accorded to him by none other than the first Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. And in that majlis, we explained that one of the reasons, one of the ways that for normal people, everybody cannot be Allama Amini. But if a person wants to make his life tayyib, one of the recommendations is, in addition to doing all the other things, is to embark and persevere in the recitation of Ziyarat Ashura. And we had emphasized that while the short Ziyarat Ashura is beneficial, should be done, if possible, every day. But the real impetus, the real booster, the real benefit, the real fawaid would come upon the perseverance on reciting Ziyarat Ashura, the complete version, with 100 times salam and 100 times lanat. And that was the first lecture. In the second lecture, we indicated that while we live a life of hayat tayyiba, our focus should be the akhirat. And the first stage of the akhirat is the qabr. And we had emphasized that we should make sure and ensure that we do not lose focus of the qabr, because the qabr does not lose focus of us. And every qabr knows who its inhabitant is going to be, because a person's creation is mixed up with the portion of that soil of the grave where he's eventually going to go. And so 5 calls and 5 shout outs. Qabr keeps giving its inhabitant, its ahl, that watch out, that you will be coming into me. But to do know that I am these 5 things which we mentioned in the last lecture. Ana baytul wahda, I'm the place of isolation. Ana baytul hayyi'at, I'm the place of snakes. I'm the bayt ut dhulma, I'm the place of darkness. I'm the house of darkness. Ana baytul firash at turba, I'm the place of mud and earth. And I'm the place of al-faqr, riches. So bring all these items that will help you in these 5 states. Bring somebody to accompany and give you company. Bring some traps to ensnare the snakes that are within me. Get light with you so that you can illuminate your qabr. Get with you mattresses and beddings, because the bedding that I've got is very hard and very uncomfortable. And finally, ana baytul faqr, I'm the house of poverty. Bring with you riches along with you. And then we had said one of the things, amongst the other things, one of the very, very effective things to help us out and to solve these 5 issues that the grave keeps calling out to us is the recitation of salawat at least 100 times every day. Because all of these 5 things can be warded away and rectified by means of constant and regular recital of salawat. And that's where we heard up to the last lecture. But the important point for today's lecture and Majlis is the fact that all of these things, whether it is Ziyarat Ashura, whether it is Iman, whether it is Hayat Tayyaba, whether it is the focus on the grave, and whether it is preparations to take these items towards the grave in the course of our lifetime, all of these things would be beneficial only and only if we are actually able to take all of these things with us to the grave. All of these things would be beneficial if we are actually able to take all of this with us into our journey of the Akhirah, into the day of judgment, onto the mahshar, before God. And why do I say this? That if we are able to take these things in the realms of the Akhirah, is because the Quran tells us that however strong your Iman may be now, and however good deeds you may be doing, however ziyarat ashuras you may be reciting, whether short, whether full, whether salawat, whether whatever XYZ, whatever you may be doing, rest assured and be on the alert that it is possible that the Iman can go away and the deeds can be nullified. Just because a person has Iman at a particular instant and a particular moment of time does not guarantee that that Iman will be there with him at the time when Malakul Maut comes. Because we got numerous traditions which says the eventual state of a person in paradise is based on the time when he leaves the world. What is the state that he is in when he's leaving the world will determine what his life will be in the eternal life of the hereafter. So the entire life that we do, it's all boils down to that instant when Malakul Maut is coming to take our soul, because at that time, in addition to Malakul Maut, there's also the presence of the commanders of Iblis who are willing to take away our Iman, so that a person, when he goes away without Iman and hence has an imperiled hereafter. And Quran repeatedly says, be on the alert, be cautioned, be very understanding about this fact that just because you've got Iman now, that Iman may not remain with you. And the word that the Riwayat uses, khawatim or khatim or khatim. Khatim means the end, khawatim means the ends. It says every act that you do, the finality of it rests on what is the state at the time when you're about to leave the world, when it is the end point. And again, Quran keeps saying there is a possibility the Iman can go away. There is a possibility that the deeds that you have can be nullified. So all these Ziyarat Ashuras could get nullified into zero at the time when a person is going. And we've got examples in history and in the Quran where people had Iman, but they died a life of kufr. Look at the various traditions, look at the various instances and the anecdotes that are there in the Quran, in the qisas of Quran. How many of us have not heard of Bal'am Ba'ura, that mustajabud da'wat man, Mustajabu da'awat means a person who raises his hands to pray to God and God says, labbaik, I'll give you whatever you want. Every hajat, every dua, mustajab means to accept, being accepted. Da'awat means the prayers. A person whose prayers are accepted the moment he asks of God is referred to as mustajabu da'awat. Bal'am Ba'ura was mustajabu da'awat. But his end became in such a manner that when Allah is referring to him, Allah refers to him as a dog. That means a man at the pinnacle of his closeness to God, such that he becomes mustajabu da'wah, drops to such depths that now God does not feel befitting to refer to him as a human, compares him to a dog. Kal kalb, like a dog, yalhad, with his tongue being put out and panting. So from what pinnacle of success to what depths of absolute ignominy a person can fall down. Have you also not, if you think that is too far from in the time of Bani Israel, even in our time, we've had the incident of Shalmaghani, who was a faqih, who was a mujtahid, who was a muhaddith, who was a scholar, who had written numerous books. He was contemporaneous to the time of the third naib, the naib khas of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, Husayn ibn Ruh Nawbakhti. But something happened and he flipped. He lost his iman from a state of being a faqih, from a state of being a muhaddith. He would narrate the traditions. Thousands of people would listen to his traditions when he would narrate from the sixth Imam and the Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Holy Prophet. Drops down to a level to such an extent that not only does his iman go away, but Imam Zamana Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif has to write a tawqi, has to write a letter to his naib khas to tell the people, Inna Shalmaghani qad kafar. Shalmaghani has become a kafir. Wa la'anatullahi alayhi. And may the curse of God be upon him. This is an Imam Ma'soom invoking the curse of Allah upon a person who was hitherto in an erstwhile state, a faqih, a muhaddith, a author who would teach and preach the religion of Islam. And this is what the Quran keeps cautioning us. You may have your iman now, but don't take it for granted that it will remain forever. And similarly, so when it comes to deeds, two facets of a moment's life is what? Iman and good deeds. A person who has iman and a person who does good deeds. Just as iman can go away, good deeds can be nullified. Quran mentions it. Quran tells the people, gives an instance where people had behaved in a certain way. They would address the Holy Prophet in a very rude manner. They would talk to the Holy Prophet in a very nonchalant manner. And Allah had to come inside and intervene. The Holy Prophet, إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, you are on the peak of morals. You will not tell them what is hurting you. But Allah will tell them. And he goes on to say in the Quran, watch out how you speak to my Prophet. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. Do not raise your voices when you are in the presence of the Holy Prophet, lest all your a'mal يحبط أعمالكم, in such a manner that I get so upset that I nullify all your deeds because of this disrespect that you've done that you will exhibit or you are exhibiting to my Prophet. Be careful how you behave. Do not raise your voices over the voice of my Prophet. Do not call him and address him the way you address the others. And they would call out, Ya Muhammad, Ya Muhammad. He says, what Ya Muhammad? He's not an ordinary man. Call him Ya Rasulullah. Call him Ya Nabi Allah. Call him Ya Ayyuhar Rasul. What is this, Ya Muhammad? You talk like this and you will realize you come to the day of judgment, all your namaz sham, I will trash them into the basket and you will stand before me with nothing in your book of deeds. So we've got these two dangers which the Quran tells us. Be careful, your iman today might not survive with you when you go into the grave. One, your amal and ziyarat ashuras and the salawat and XYZ that you and I have been doing might not survive till the time you go into the grave. So now it becomes, and this is the reason, this is the massive danger that we've got before us. That we cannot afford to be complacent, we can't afford to be lax, we can't afford to let our guard down just because we've got iman and we are doing amal Isale at this current moment of time. And it's not just The Quran telling us, and I'm telling you, I'm telling myself first before I tell you. This was even the dagdaga, this was even the worry, this was even the worrisome fact that would plague even the Ma'asumin alayhimus salam. Yes, even the Ma'asumin would be worried, trying to convey to us, they don't need to be actually worried, but they have to explain to us that this is a very serious peril that is surrounding you. You need to take heed of this and work towards it. So we will explain this and we will tell you the solution also. This has always been the norm in these two majlises previously, and so also inshallah for tonight. And so this is exactly the time. Amirul Mu'mineen was worried. A very prominent incident that you will hear probably 3.5 weeks from now. Probably 3.5 weeks from now. Tonight, those who have already entered into the Shab have entered into the first night of Shaban. Those like us in Peterborough and England and over here would be entering in a few minutes. In the last Friday of the month of Shaban, in one of the years when the Holy Prophet was alive, on the last Friday, he stands up to deliver his khutbah that is very prominently known as Khutbah Sha'baniyah, wherein he mentions on the last Friday, just prior to the heralding and arrival of the month of Ramadan, he explains on that khutbah, in that khutbah, the benefits of the month of Ramadan. Ya ayyuhan nas, qad aqbala ilaykum shahrullahi al-azim bil maghfirati and wal rahmah and fulan and fulan. O people, approaching to you is the month of God with its mercy and with its compassion, and when it's ghufran and its forgiveness and fulan and goes on and on. This khutbah is narrated, but there's an incident that takes place after the khutbah. And the incident is this, that as the Holy Prophet is in the Masjid al-Nabi, his companions are around, listening to the khutbah, seated also down is Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And as the Holy Prophet finishes the khutbah mentioning the merits of the month of Ramadan that is shortly to arrive in the next few days, he begins to weep. All of a sudden he begins to weep. Everybody worried, why is he crying? At that time, Amirul Mu'mineen asks him, Ya Rasulullah, what is it that is making you weep? Ma yubkik, what is causing you to weep? At that time, the Holy Prophet prophesies the shahadat of Amirul Mu'mineen. He says, Ya Ali, I'm seeing a time when you are in the state of sajda, and one ashqal ashqiya, the most wretched of the wretched ones, will land down his sword upon your head at a blow that will splatter, that will shatter, that will split your scalp and your head. And that's when you will attain shahadat. And that's the reason I'm weeping. Normally, a normal person would think, oh, I'm going to die. Is it going to be a painful death? How is it going to happen? Will I last for a long time? Will it be more detrimental to me? Fulan, all related to the death. But you know what Amir al-Mu'mineen says? He listens to this. The Prophet is shaken because he's now worried about Ali. But Ali turns to the Prophet and asks just one question. Not whether it will be a painful death, not whether I'll be living for long after that. Fulan, he just asks one question. Ya Rasulullah, is that incident when it takes place, min salamatin min dini? When that incident takes place, when Ibn Muljim will shower his sword upon my head, would I be in my state where my deen is salim? Min salamatin min dini? Will my deen, my iman be salim at that time? The Prophet turns and says, Ya Ali, fi salamatin min dinik. This will take place at a time when your iman will be absolutely proper. And then that historical verse sentence of Ali when he said, Fuztu wa rabbil Kaaba. The Prophet had said, I would be successful. My iman would be with salamati. And that's the reason I'm now announcing, Fuztu. I've been successful by the Lord of the Kaaba. So Ali was also worried, not for his shahadat, but for his deen and for his iman. So if Ali, our imam, is worried, it becomes all the more reason that people like me and you need to be worried about our akhirat and our going into the grave. Whether are we having our iman held in a way, whether are we having our amal held in a way that we are able to carry it to the grave It should not be in such a way that we keep collecting our iman and keep collecting our good deeds only to leave them behind when we go into the grave, because then it will be wa musibata. And at times, it's not just losing out on iman or losing out on faith and amal saleh that is a problematic issue. We might be able to take our iman with us. We might be able to, and inshallah, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the wasila of Hadrat Zahra that He preserves our iman and He preserves our deeds and He takes and gives them to us till we go into the akhirat and meet Him on the day of judgment. While we may be able to do this, inshallah, there's also a problem that while we may take our iman with us and preserve it, while we may take our amal saleh and preserve it, there is also the possibility that we could, in the course of the life of this world, take a decision that we could rule for the rest of the life in this world and the rest of the life in the akhirat. So it's not that we lose the iman completely, or we lose the amal saleh or the amal salihat that we've done completely. No, we can take them, and we might take them, but a time could come in this world where we have to take a decision, and that decision we take now, the billah, is so wrong that while we may go into paradise with iman and amal saleh, but this decision we are left to rue for the rest of our lives in this world and the rest of the lives in the akhirat. I'll give you an example of this. And this is what we need to preserve. And this is what the crux of today's majlis is. One, to preserve our iman so that we take it with us to the akhirat. Means the moment Malakul Maut comes, we are into the akhirat. We preserve our amal saleh in a way that we keep it with us and take it to the akhirat when Malakul Maut comes. And we hold our iman and amal saleh, and we have our basirat and understanding of religion in such a way that all the decisions that we make in this world, we don't have an opportunity to rue and remorse over this action in dunya and akhirah. Now, why have I intentionally brought this issue about taking a decision? This is because it becomes very important for us in today's time, specifically when we are awaiting the arrival of Imam Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. All along we've been claiming and we keep calling out, Allahumma ajjil waliyaka al-faraj. Allah hasten the reappearance of your 12th Imam. Allahumma ajjil waliyaka al-faraj. Allah hasten the reappearance of your 12th Imam. Say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad wa ajjil farajahum. Allah hasten their savior. We keep calling them out. But there could also be the possibility that when, inshallah, we are graced, we are honored, we are dignified, we are given that ni'mat of God to, inshallah, witness the dhuhur of the Imam, lest it happens that when Imam comes, we take a decision vis-a-vis the personality of the Imam that we are left to rue in this world and for the entire akhirah that we live in. Why do I say this? I say this because of this incident that I'm going to relate to you about an individual by the name of Harthama ibn Salim. May God protect us to be of the kind of an individual like Harthama ibn Salim. Harthama was a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a very close companion. He would be there with Imam Ali al-Islam in the battles that Ali would fight. He would fight alongside Ali al-Islam. He's narrating this incident. He's saying, after the Battle of Siffin, as we were returning to Kufa, I was with Ali. And in the course of our return journey, we happened to pass by a region called Karbala. Karbala was not mashhur at that time, at the time of Imam Ali. It was just an ordinary land. It was after 61 Hijri that Karbala became Karbala. Since we were passing by this land, at that point of time, we reached Karbala. As we were passing through the land of Karbala, Ali got down from his mount. Ali got down, even I got down. Ali comes down, sits down. I'm watching Ali. At that point of time, Ali picks up a fistful of soil of that land of Karbala, smells it. Then he turns to the portion of the soil in his hand and he says one sentence. وَأَحَلَّكِ أَيَّتُهَا التُّرْبَةِ. Glad tidings to you, O soil of this land. لَيَحْشُرَنَّ مِنْكِ قَوْمٌ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Says, glad tidings to you, O land of Karbala. For very shortly from you shall be resurrected bodies and individuals whom Allah will make them enter paradise without any hisab and kitab and accounting and reckoning. They will be of such character and such rank in the eyes of God that God will not take accounting from them. Says, I heard this and I was stunned. What is Ali talking about? He's prophesizing the future. Now, all the companions were not of the same level. They had different levels of marifat. So yeah, says he goes, he forgets about the incident. Fast forward, because we're coming close to time. Fast forward comes a time, 61 Hijri. Ali passes away, Hassan passes away. The 61 Hijri, I am in the forces of Ibn Ziyad. I'm in his soldier, as a soldier, as a cavalry in his army. I'm given an order to go to Karbala to fight. I go to a land to fight Hussein ibn Ali. I go with the forces of Ibn Ziyad, reach Karbala, and I'm told Hussein is coming. I found out this is the land of Karbala. So this is the land, and immediately I go into flashback. This was the place that Ali was telling me, that people would be resurrected from this place so high in the eyes of God that they would not be taken to task in terms of accounting. I made up my mind, I'm not going to fight in this battle. He says, I sit in my house, I go to the tent of Hussein ibn Ali very quickly. I go to the tent of Hussein ibn Ali and I tell him, Ya Hussein, this is what I heard from the father. Is this true? He says, yes. At that time, Hussein asks him a question. Imam asks him, Ya Harthama, a'antum ma'ana aw alayna? Are you with us and supporting us, or will you fight against us? And he says one sentence. He says, Ya Hussein, la ma'aka wa la alayk. Neither will I fight you, nor can I support you. Then he gives a reason. He says, I've got my family, I've got my wife, I've got my children. I'm worried. If I stand over here and support you, Ibn Ziyad will torture them. Ibn Ziyad will take them to task after this battle is finished. And I need to be protective of them, so I need to go. Imam looks at him. And tells him one sentence, فَوَلِّ حَرَبًا. So turn away and run away from here. حَتَّى لَا تَرَى مَقْتَلَنَا. So that you don't see the place where we are going to be killed. Then he says, فَوَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ. I swear by that Lord in whose hands lies the soul of Muhammad. لا يرى رجل مقتلنا اليوم. No man today sees my death. ولا يغيثنا, and does not help me in this time of need. إلا وأدخله الله النار. إلا أدخله الله في النار. Except that Allah will put him into the fire. Turn away, go away quickly before the battle starts and I'm about to die. Because if I'm about to die, and if you see me in that state that I need help, and you don't help me out, Allah will put you into the fire of hell. So just go away. Riwayat tells us Harithama ibn Salim gets onto the horse, runs away from Karbala to his family and children, missing out the boat of that group of people who in a few hours' time reach a level of such rank and loftiness that you have an Imam Masum by the name of Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, the sixth Imam, turning to these individuals who sacrificed their life for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, telling them, Bi abi anta wa ummi, oh you martyrs who supported my Jad, my grandfather, may I, Sadiq, and may my father Al-Baqir, the two Imams of the Hujjat of God, be sacrificed for you. What a waste of life for Harthama. How long was he going to live having gone? How much would he have taken care of his wife? But one decision left him to rue, and he did rue it after the death of Imam Hussein. But what is the use? A wrong decision taken. He was on the plains of Karbala. In a few hours' time, he was going to become one of those whom the sixth Imam would say, my father and my mother be sacrificed for you. O Shuhada Karbala, what is your rank? Riwayat tell us that the Imam says there were no companions in rank as high as Imam Hussein's companion in comparison to any other Imam. This Harithama ibn Salim was there, saw Habib ibn Madahir, saw Zuhair, saw Sa'id, saw Qain, saw Hadrat Abbas, saw Imam Hussein. But one wrong decision for the rest of his life and up to the day of judgment and forever and ever, every time he will look at what Allah has given to these 72 individuals and he will be cursing himself. Why did I take that wrong decision of not staying with Hussein ibn Ali? Waste of life in dunya, waste of life in the akhirah. Why? One reason, a wrong decision. Will that happen to us? We don't know. Should that happen to us, we pray to Allah. It does not happen when Imam Zamana comes. But just, there has to be a way of praying. The problem you heard, now the solution, and then 2 minutes of masab, and then we finish up. Because we've got the Majlis, the Maghrib Namaz time coming in over here. What is the problem? Problem is to protect ourselves from these things. Solution, you heard. What could have been Abi Anta? Somebody like Khur, somebody like Habib. Suddenly, Harthama ibn Salim becomes an ordinary individual amongst billions of people, forgotten in the annals of history, except brought out from history to show this is not the decision a person needs to take when Imam Zamana comes. So how do we protect ourselves that if Imam Zamana comes, we don't make the same mistake and we don't make the same wrong decision that we could be left to rue for as long as we live in this world and forever and ever in Akhirat? One solution. Given by whom? By the sixth Imam, Sadiq Ali Muhammad, Ja'far ibn Muhammad and Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Somebody comes to the sixth Imam. I'm very quickly going. Somebody comes to the sixth Imam. Yabna Rasulullah, I'm worried about my deen. What should I do? Very quickly, Imam says one dua, very powerful dua, very small dua, but very powerful. Imam says, recite it as much as possible. And why I've picked this dua amongst various others that are also narrated is because of this fact that Ayatollah al-Udhma, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, the Rahbar of Iran, today, current, everybody knows. He himself has gone on record to have stated that in one of my visits from Tehran, he's based in Tehran, in one of my visits from Tehran to Qum, when I had come to Qum for some meeting that I had to address, I paid a visit out of respect to the house of Ayatollah Marhum, Ayatollah al-Udhma Behjat. Who doesn't know Ayatollah Behjat? Who doesn't know Ayatollah Khamenei? Ayatollah Khamenei himself is saying, when I went to Qum, I went to the house of Ayatollah Behjat to pay a visit to him. Now, Ayatollah Behjat in age was senior to him. He passed away earlier. Ayatollah Khamenei is still alive, and may Allah give him a long life with safety and health and prosperity. But Ayatollah Khamenei is saying, when I went to him, Ayatollah Behjat said to me, "Oh, Agha Khamenei, I'm recommending to you to recite this dua as much as is possible. Because you've got a lot of things on your plate. You've got a lot of issues against you as the leader of the Islamic revolution. Recite this dua, for it will help you preserve your iman and faith when you go down." What is that dua? The same dua that Ayatollah Behjat has recommended to Ayatollah Khamenei, to mujtahideen, to marja, advising one another, taken from the teaching of the sixth Imam. And what is that dua? Very small dua. It says, recite this dua. Sixth Imam is saying, Ayatollah Behjat is telling Ayatollah Khamenei, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit qalbi ala dinik. So you don't know the power of this dua. This dua is that one thing, if recited numerously in a day, has the power to maintain one's iman, maintains one's faith, protect a person from taking a wrong decision, and take this entire package that we've got for the entire life that we've collected with us into the grave to hold us in good stead when we go into the Akhirat. Again, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh Allah, oh Rahman, oh Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, oh you who change the hearts, the changer of the hearts and the minds. Thabbit qalbi, make my heart steadfast. Thabbit, steadfast. Qalbi, my heart, make my heart steadfast and perseverant. Ala dinik, upon your religion. My iman on your religion, my amal on your religion, and my decisions based on your religion. And you want to see one very short in a couple of minutes, 1 minute probably, because masab, you just need to mention the name and the masab is done. And what is it? One person who takes the right decision. Who? Hur ibn Yazid in Karbala. And when Hur takes a decision, and when he comes to the camp of Hussein ibn Ali, and when he comes to the camp of Hussein ibn Ali, you know all the story. We just want to link it up so that we remember the masab of Hussein ibn Ali. And Hur comes, Imam accepts him. Anta hurrun fi dunya wal akhirah. You are a free man in this world and the hereafter. Hur says, Yabna Rasulullah, I want to expiate my offenses and misdemeanors. I want to send my son to the battlefield first. The son goes into the battlefield. He begins to fight. All of a sudden, he's struck down by the enemies. He falls down. As he falls down, the father, the love of the paternal love of the father comes forth. The Hur gets up, rushes to go to the help of his son. At that time, he sees somebody holding his hands. Turns around and says, "Who? Hussein ibn Ali." Says, "Oh Mawla, let me go. My son has gone down. I need to help him." Hussein says, no, you cannot go for two reasons. One, you are my guest. You cannot go. I will go on your behalf. And secondly, I will not allow you to go because an old father doesn't go onto the lasha of his young son. Your young son has fallen down. You are an old father. You don't go. I will go and pick him up. I would turn to Imam Hussein, fold my hand and says, Yabna Rasulullah. Oh, Imam Hussein, you just mentioned one rule that an old father does not pick up the lasha of a young son. But I wonder what would have gone through your hearts when Akber had fallen down from the horse, when that lance and the spear of Numayr ibn Hasin struck him in the chest and he fell down and he called out, Ya Abada, oh my father, what would have happened to you? You had to go there because there was nobody to help you. What would have been your state when you saw your 18-year-old son covered in blood, portion of the spear stuck into his chest? Oh Mawla, you protected and saved Hur from going to his son. But who is over here to help you carry the lasha of Ali Akbar?
وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ألا ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين. Allah, we dedicate the rewards of this ibadat, this masab of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam to the grave of the Marhum Mohamed Bhai Hasham. And also to the graves of all the marhumin, of all the listeners of this majlises and the relatives and the marhumin of all the mu'minin and mu'minat. Wallah, by the sake of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, hasten the reappearance of the 12th Imam. Wallah, by the sake of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, make the journey of the akhirat of Muhammad bin Hasham from now into the qabr, into the barzakh, onto the day of judgment, and into paradise, a safe and smooth one. Allah, grace him with your mercy and grant him the shafaat of the Ahl al-Bayt. Allah, grace us with your mercy and grant us the shafaat of the Ahl al-Bayt. By the sake of Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah, by the sake of Imam al-Zamana, grant us tawfiq that we may enter paradise. May we have our akhirat and an aqibat, our end that is a goodly end, because we keep praying, Ya Allah, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahimu, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. By the wasila of this dua sent to us and taught to us by the 6th Imam, grant us tawfiq and preserve our faith, preserve our actions, and preserve our decision making, so that we have a good life in the hereafter, in the company of the Ahl al-Bayt in paradise. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم غفر الله لنا ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
On behalf of the family, I would like to thank Sheikh Shahnawaz for dedicating his 3-part Majalis series for the Isale Sawab of my Nana Bapa, Marhum Mohamed Akber Hasham. We are very grateful to you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us all. May Allah reward you amply. Please note that from tomorrow to Friday, the program will start at 5:30 p.m. UK time, 8:30 p.m. Tanzanian time, and 1:30 p.m. US time. The 40th program for the Marhum will inshallah be held on Saturday, 20th March, starting at 3:50 p.m. UK time, 6:50 p.m. Tanzanian time, and 11:50 p.m. US time, 11:50 a.m. US time. We will now have Ziyat Ashura by Hussein Walji.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا صار الله وابن الثار والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن مشايخهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله على زياد وعلى مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانا، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرة، ولعن الله أمة أسفجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي يقبل مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني إنك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بمفاضاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونسب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن نسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وبراء إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن نسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بمبالاتكم ومبالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي يكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ويرزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب صاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يؤتيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يؤتي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم مزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله من صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكواد. الليل ابن الليل على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لنا أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل بياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فبارك عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لنا أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لنا الإصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايت وبايت وتابت على كتفه. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني بزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم بالله مني وابدأ به أولا ثم لن الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لا يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرة وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مرضان إلى يوم القيامة. سجود. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رضيته. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Please join me reciting Amma Yujibu for all those who are sick and suffering around the world. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Let us recite Surah Fatiha for Marhum Mohamed Akber Hasham and all Marhumin. Al-Fatiha. We shall inshallah see you again tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. UK time.